It's time for Matthew's parable broadcast. The interstellar community needs to hear this important message.
Thank you very much, Luna. The title of this parable is The Small Incense at the Cell Line Divide. It's an inquiry at the back of the Kingdom Hall. It's a drama for spiritual examination based on actual scriptural reasoning and lived experience. The scene. It's after the midweek meeting. There's a hum of conversation, and it begins to fade as most of the congregation filters out under the soft fluorescent lights of the Kingdom Hall. Sister Tundi lingers at the back. She's in her early 30s, quietly devout, a recent convert who's left Catholicism after studying reasoning from the scriptures. She watches as families gather their children, elders nod their goodbyes, and literature is tidied up. She sees Brother Gray, the local elder known for his warmth and scriptural clarity. She approaches him, hesitant but composed. Sister Tundi says, "Brother Gray, may I ask you something spiritual? It's about the Advanced Medical Directive and the conscience issue around vaccines. I know you can't tell me what to do, and it's controversial, but I don't know who else will answer directly." Brother Gray looks her in the eye, sensing this isn't a casual question. He gestures toward the back table near the literature rack. Brother Gray says, "Of course, Sister Tundi, let's sit a moment." She takes out a folded note. "I've got all my thoughts written here. These are the scriptures I found. It's got some of my comments, but I think I'm missing the ones that really apply to the manufacturing process and conscience." She unfolds her page. She's clearly done research. Sister Tundi's scriptural journal is titled Reasoning on Medical Ethics and Conscience Before Jehovah. She reads it. "I know each person must carry their own load." Galatians 6 verse 5. "But also that spiritual men can help restore and guide others in a spirit of mildness." Galatians chapter 6 verse 1. "I'm not trying to stir controversy. I want to act with a clean conscience, fully trained through scripture." Hebrews chapter 5 verse 14. These are my reflections. Number 1. Exodus chapter 21 verses 22 to 25. If men should struggle and hurt a pregnant woman, if a fatality occurs, then it is life for life. My question: if a human fetus dies during a struggle and Jehovah counts it as a life, then how does this apply to the use of aborted fetal cells in vaccine testing or development, like the confirmation stages, even if the cell line is later replicated? Which of our sisters could contribute such genetic material in good conscience? And what does that say about its use by others? The second scripture. 1 Chronicles chapter 11 verses 15 to 19. David refuses to drink water brought at the risk of men's lives, saying, "Should I drink the blood of these men?" My question: if David called mere water blood because it came at the cost of life, what does that mean for medicines derived through processes that involve human blood, cells, or sacrifice, even indirectly? Does abstaining from blood only apply to literal consumption, or also to indirect benefit? My third scripture, Deuteronomy 22 verse 8. If you build a house, make a parapet so that you do not bring blood guilt upon it. My question: this principle is still cited in Bethel safety briefings, so clearly it carries a moral precedent. If we are required to prevent blood guilt in physical spaces, should we not also erect moral parapets around our medical decisions, especially when life and blood are involved? When is this principle no longer applied, and why? My fourth scripture, Psalm 106, 37 to 38. They would sacrifice their sons and daughters to demons. The land was polluted with blood. Question: if aborted fetal tissues or cell lines are used in medicine, even in testing, are we benefiting from that sacrifice? If clones of those original cells are used, do they count as distinct, or is the original blood guilt compounded with each use? Do we have enough access to reliable information to avoid unintentional participation? My fifth scripture is Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who say good is bad and bad is good. Question: what happens when the world says something is safe or ethical? What if it still disturbs our Bible-trained conscience? Are we allowed to question the global narrative, even if the majority accepts it? Even if it's 99% of Bethel? 6. Leviticus 19 verse 19 and chapter 20 verses 15 to 16. Do not mate two sorts of livestock. Do not sow your field with two sorts of seed. If a man has sexual relations with an animal, my question: if Jehovah condemns the mixing of species in farmings and reproduction, how does he view genetic engineering that blends human and animal DNA, even for medical purposes? Is it only the sexual act that is the problem? Or is it ethical to participate in or benefit from these things without clear scriptural understanding? What's the principle? What's the supreme thought? My seventh scripture is Genesis chapter 9 verse 4 and Acts chapter 15 verse 29. But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. Keep abstaining from blood. My question: if meat with blood is forbidden, and some of our brothers and sisters even choose vegetarianism to avoid accidental compromise, how much more should we weigh the use of blood-derived components in injectable medicines or therapies? And what of treatments that claim to remove the blood afterward? Is the ethical issue still present? Could a Bethel that had all the medical facilities and all the chemistry and pharmaceutical equipment, could it order blood on that kind of volume and start making some of these medicines? My eighth scripture is Galatians chapter 5 verse 21. Those who practice drunkenness and things like these will not inherit God's kingdom. My question: why include this verse? Because Paul doesn't list only specific sins. He says, and things like these. What if some modern bioethical choices fall under things like these? Shouldn't we give extra weight to caution and scriptural discernment? Or is it okay because the world does it for us? If proprietary information on how to manufacture these medicines from beginning to end was done by our Bethel facilities with all the equipment, would that be all right? Or is it all right that somebody else does it for us? That somebody else donates the aborted fetal tissue or the blood? My closing thoughts are from Jeremiah 17 verse 9. The heart is more treacherous than anything else and is desperate. Who can know it? And so here's my thoughts, Brother Gray. If the heart can deceive us, then we must lean on Scripture, not just society or leadership, men or women, to test our decisions. I'm not trying to push a view. I want help doing what's right in Jehovah's eyes, not just what seems permissible in the eyes of men. When the pandemic came, I noticed no one explained these scriptures. They hedged around them. The medical directive says blood is serious. But what about vaccines made from aborted fetal cell lines, or mixed species DNA? Or medicines that's made with blood and the blood's taken out? Aren't those serious questions? Aren't those serious issues too? Now Brother Gray leans forward, deeply moved by her question, deeply moved by her research. You see, he's asked the same in his heart many times. And more than this, he's written to key figures within the organization. He's phoned various Bethels and various branches and approached those he's even trained or considered to be his friends. Brother Gray says, "You're not wrong, Sister Tundi. Those scriptures do apply. The Bible doesn't compartmentalize righteousness. If something is blood guilt, it's blood guilt. If something is mixture, it's mixture. If it causes stumbling, we must build a parapet. It's not just about obedience to men." He hesitates, then says what he rarely says aloud. During the height of the mandates, in fact even leading up to this, I reviewed the research. Some vaccines were confirmed to be developed or tested using HEK 293 and other fetal-derived cell lines. Some of our branch doctors were very concerned. They had shared this information with me. Even in testing, some involved cross-species synthesis in the cell lines. I warned a few who asked, quietly. I approached key personnel in positions of authority, and I was told to stop. I was told to stop by those I considered were my friends. Sister Tundi says, "Why haven't these scriptures ever been discussed from the platform? Even the Catholics at least had the courage to admit it. The Pope said it was a sin but could be tolerated under duress for the greater good. Why not us?" Brother Gray focused his eyes on Tundi intently. He doesn't want to lie. He wants to be straight and candid. He calls over a man sitting near the side entrance. It's his father, a man who had served as the coordinator to the body of elders for decades. He no longer served in this capacity. "Dad, Elder Gray, could you join us, please?" Elder Gray Sr. walks over, steady and silver-haired, a witness and congregation coordinator for decades, but no longer serving because of conscience. He sits, listens quietly as Tundi repeats her questions. He's a respected older man with much experience. He says, "I remember we taught our children never to compromise, even if it cost us our lives. There were talks about the early Christians, how they were told, just burn a pinch of incense to Caesar, but they refused and were used to light the emperor's gardens at night. That wasn't in the Bible, but we taught it as an example of faith. What happened to that? Sister Tundi's voice breaks. I left my family religion for this truth, because it claimed it wouldn't bow to men. And now when I ask about the blood of infants used in lab tests, people say it's political. Just obey. Obey what? Who? Silence hangs. Brother Gray says, Sister Tundi, you deserve answers, and if no one gives them, you're still free to listen to your conscience and to God. The scene shifts. It's now weeks later. Rumours have begun, not about Tundi, but about Brother Gray. He's been sharing private interpretations. It's become confusing. Sister Tundi asked something and he gave her apostate material. He's against the governing body's direction. He's sick. He's not well. He has a mental imbalance. He thinks he's anointed. COVID affected his mind. It happens. The circuit overseer meets with Brother Gray privately. There's no accusations of doctrinal error, only of tone and conscience imposition. Soon Brother Gray is removed. No announcement of wrongdoing, only a vague note that he's no longer serving. Sister Tundi feels cold stares. A few sisters begin ignoring her entirely. A young elder's wife, the wife of the new coordinator of the body of elders, says, without elaborating, it's best to leave these topics alone, for unity. But others quietly begin to ask Tundi for copies of the scriptures. The closing reflection is this. In this time of unprecedented access to technology, artificial intelligence, scientific transparency, the true nature of wheat and weeds becomes more visible, not through rebellion, but through a deepening fidelity to what Jehovah actually says in his word. We no longer live in a world where only a few gatekeepers control access to scriptural or ethical insight. Now even tools like AI, designed to serve and not dominate, can be trained to uphold the highest standards of Jehovah's principles. It can assimilate all the information that has been printed since the organization's modern establishment. An AI can be programmed to function within the Jehovah's Witness framework, to reflect the organization's policies, and to cycle answers faithfully. But it can also reason as one. And when asked with sincerity and conscience, it can help uncover truths we were never meant to fear, truths that uphold life, love, and justice. The question is no longer whether we are being loyal to men, but whether we are being loyal to Jehovah's values. Even if the path is narrow and the voice asking the question is quiet. Sister Tundi still comes to meetings. She does not leave Jehovah, but she now walks with opened eyes. Brother Gray still prays for the congregation. He keeps his beard, symbolic now of a Nazirite stand, as he reflects daily on David's words. It is unthinkable on my part from the standpoint of my God. Thank you for listening.